Hello everyone, and welcome. So as most of you probably know, the PlayStation 5 had a presentation type thing, and they showed off some stuff, and I'm just here to give my thoughts on it. Now, when you look at what I have, a lot of my stuff is Sony oriented because a lot of JRPGs have a long history after the Super Nintendo being more on Sony's end. Well, Nintendo's been wishy-washy with some of those systems, and well, Microsoft has hardly had anything. The only few they really had of note worth were mainly for the 360. Maybe Shimon Tensei 9 also, but and of course, a lot of us are a little upset with how Sony's been treating Japanese stuff lately. But biases aside, I am interested to see how next gen turns out because of what Sony's doing to their original fan base, throwing them into a lava pit. But enough of that. Let's basically get into the presentation. I would hope, though, Microsoft takes advantage of it if they were smart. But anyway, the presentation. So it started off the most weirdest way possible, in my opinion. Oh, well, maybe not the weirdest way, but it's always started off very odd to me. So it started off showing off GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto 5, of all things. Now, most of the 3D Grand Theft Autos have been ported to multiple systems all over the place, so it's not really shocking me for 5 to get a PS5 port, but to me it's kind of really strange for it to be like the first big thing shown for this. Like, a port, especially since Sony said apparently that they are wanting to tone down having port, which I highly fucking doubt. I'm expecting shitloads of things to get PS4 and 5 versions, and previous PS4 shit to get PS5 version. I'm not gonna be shocked, but they did say something along the lines wanting to tone that down a little bit, since it was a little grievous during the 3 to 4, but they showed off that, said you'll get shitloads of money like every week or month or something for GTA Online. I mean, obviously, to me, the big thing is they want to continue Grand Theft Auto Online because for some reason they get shitloads of microtransactions in that game. I do not know. I haven't really played much since like the bank heist stuff, which was fun, but outside that, I only played a little bit of like some weird like secret agent underground facility thing a little bit, and outside that I haven't played online again. I'm sure they'll tweak some things and that graphically for the console version, but not anything exciting to me. Now, something I think it would have been better. Now, to me, it's not very exciting, but they announced a Spider-Man game. Now, the newest Spider-Man game that came out was very popular. It was a big open-world Spider-Man game. I haven't seen so many people lose their mind and excitement since, like, that one on the PS2 that people loved. So, this, I think, would have been a better idea to open with, honestly. A lot of these little games probably would have been better. At least they would be something fucking not a Wii release. But there have apparently been a lot of misconceptions with this. From what I'm understanding, it's not a full game release, and it doesn't necessarily say that the PS4 won't get it. It seems to be like it's more likely going to be a standalone, possible release, kind of like a mini standalone thing that was like that Last of Us game. Or it could be DLC add-on to the existing Spider-Man game, but I haven't found a very good straight-out source. It is just all over the place, whether it's a whole new game or not. It seems incredibly misknown, so it's probably a little tricky to give a good idea of whether if it's a full game, it probably definitely would have been a better thing to start with. Then they did Gran Turismo 7. I'm not a Waso type person, so not anything really exciting to me. I'm sure if you always saw that. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Now, I never played really any of the Ratchet & Clank games. The only one I ever got to play was the first one. I believe Aaron's played several of them. I know this has a very good fan base and everything, so I'm sure it will be very well received, likely. The last one that came out was a reimagining of the first game based on the movie, which actually changed up Ratchet's personality some, since he was kind of more of a sarcastic bastard. Well, in the movie, they made him a super goody two-shoes. So I remember a lot of people complaining about that. So hopefully they do a better job on that with this one. What's interesting to note is it shows an additional character that is the same race as Ratchet. Now I'm no expert on this, but from what I understand, like Ratchet was supposed to be like the last of his race, and then there became kind of a kerfuffle in one of the spin-offs where another character looked like his species, but they never address it at all within the context of the game, and the developers have always had some wishy-washy thing about her and that. But there's a new character. She has like a metallic arm and that, and it, from how I took the visuals, is it looks like Clank and Ratchet get separated through possibly time, and that Clank ends up like in the far future and Ratchet's in the past, and perhaps this new character could be Ratchet's offspring in the future or something, possibly. But whether it's dealing with parallel universes, time travel, or just other worlds through rifts, it looks impressive. Now, it is important to note that I don't trust anything like these until I actually see it on a fucking, like, I see the console, I see a TV, I see it all hooked up like that. I don't trust these kind of presentations. It has happened time and time and time again to show not the true product of what we're seeing endless time, so I don't know why people constantly fall for it. But assuming it is very accurate or very close, it looks pretty good. But not my cup of tea. It's mostly kind of a gunny type game with some platforming in. I wouldn't necessarily call it a hardcore platforming. I'd call it more of a gunny type game. But so now Square Enix showed off some game called it was like Project Athena or something like that. It looked really nice graphically and everything, but didn't really tell a lot to me that seemed too crazy or anything in particular. I mean, it just showed a character basically traveling around the world, so it didn't really convey much. Then there was like what was it, like there was a game that got showed off that was like let's see, what is it here? Yeah, so this game called Stray. It looks like you'll be playing a cat that's just strayed. Now it does not show any detail here. Like I'm not sure if this is supposed to be the gameplay or just the opening movie. It looks like more like a movie to me, but probably likely just a simple kind of puzzle game. Sackboy, the big adventure platformer game. Again, not my cup of tea. There was this Killing Bridge of Spirits. Looks like a bit of a hack and slash, probably with a light platforming in that. I wouldn't say it was like bad looking or anything, but doesn't look like my cup of tea. A very strange game that got a lot of talk, not positive talk, but was Goodbye Volcano High, as some call the Dinosaur Foy game. I don't personally have a problem with most Foy people. You know, I know those. I have a tier system. Well, I have a low tier, like basically tier like 1, 2, and 3. I don't mind, but tier 5, which I don't think I have to explain what tier 5 probably is. You can probably use your imagination to know that, but you know, I generally don't have a problem with most of the normal Foy type people. Honestly, like, it didn't really show off much So I can't really comment on what like the story's about. It's probably going to be really story focused, considering it's you know, the title's called Goodbye Volcano High. It probably has something to do with them graduating or something. Not. I don't know, I'd have to see more of it, but I likely don't think that's going to be very interesting. Sadly, for us RPG people, there's not going to be a lot interesting in this. That's kind of really disappointing thing here. Now, Oddworld Soulstorm. Now, this has been announced for quite a while, but it got showed for the PS5, and it's apparently also going to be on PS4 along with PC, which is a given since the series, as far as I know, I think all of it except for Munchie's World is on PC, I believe. I think that's the only one that never went to PC, I think. It just showed a little bit more gameplay, because I believe the initial announcement of the game only showed like a movie where they're like on a train, so it looks like it's going to play a lot like the older entries, because like Munchie's World was a really bizarre one, the Stranger's Wrath was a third-person shooter, so it looks like it's a return to the formula from what it looks like gameplay-wise. Now, I have played the original Oddworld on PS1 a long time ago. I never, it was really hard, and to be honest, I never played any of the other ones, and probably, again, just not my cup of tea, likely. Now, Ghostwire Tokyo. Now, this game's had a lot of hype since it was announced, and it's apparently going to be a PC and PS5 game, and it looks really good. It looks like you're going to deal with, like, a lot of supernatural shit in Tokyo and that. It looked really nice, but it's not an RPG, so, you know, that one, again, is just going to vary. Hitman 3, let's see, Godfall. Which one was that? Let me take a look here. I'm trying to nimble some of the clips of these. Let's see, that was... Let's see. Ah, stupid ads. Why are you putting an ad on an ad? Hacking slash type game of that. Let's see, vanquish foes and that. It looks like it's gonna be pretty nicely graphical and violently in that, but don't know. I could probably play that one. Now, of course, the thing a lot of us are likely going to be excited about, I didn't want to bring it up immediately, but the Demon Souls remake, and not a port or a reimagining, at least not as far as we're aware of. There could be hopes of them mixing it up a little bit, or even possibly adding new content, which is something I know a lot, and I really would love them to do the last Archstone level. That would be a good selling point for me. I don't know if I would really buy a PS5 for it, though. I mean, like, if and when I got a PS5, I would definitely get the game to play, but I don't know if it would be, you know, unless there was something new about it. It's just, you know, a supposedly better looking Demon Souls, and I know there's some like tone difference you could see, like with the giant armor knight, but I don't think that's like the end of the world kind of thing. I definitely have to say, assuming it's going to be anywhere accurate to the final product, they added a lot of detail, like grass and that growing out of the ground and shit, as opposed to just being wobble on the ground. That, I mean, it looks nice, but again, I'm not necessarily believing what they shown us. Let's see. But the developer who's they're rebuilding it completely from the grounds up, and I am kind of curious if they'll be able to carry the FromSoft kind of aesthetic and gameplay feel to it, since I would imagine FromSoft isn't involved since they'll be making it. Bluepoint, who made the Shadow Colossus one. Now, I haven't played the Shadow Colossus remake, but it looked really good. It's something I've been wanting to get. I actually technically do have it, because it was a PlayStation Plus game, actually, technically. Astro's Playroom was announced, and that's apparently going to be a free game that comes already on the consoles. So that's likely not getting a physical version, or if it does, it might be down the road, something like when Wii Sports got a retail version down the road after they stopped bundling it with Wii's, and it's like, well, now there's people who want to buy this game, they're getting Wii's and they don't have it anymore. Maybe something like that down the road, but probably not. Likely more of a throwaway game. Another title that I am excited for, though, is Resident Evil 8 Village. Now, there was a lot of leaks about Resident Evil 8, and what I want to know is it going to be VR? Please be VR. Because 7, to me, like, it's VR, not, like, it feels like a vastly different game, and using just a control, like, VR was really, really fun in the game, and I'm not a big fan of the third-person Resident Evil entries compared to the tank controls. Like, I feel like the VR is kind of an interesting mix of tank controls, a new experience, and still some of the more modern elements of newer Resident Evil games. And overall, I really enjoyed 7. It wasn't perfect, though, but I did really enjoy it, and I just, that's what I really want to know about this entry. Now, for what we saw, the leaks say that, like, Chris is going to be a villain, and they, like, takes Ethan's baby. Ethan's going to be the main character again and shit. And that seems to line up with what we saw in the visuals, where, like, at the dead end, the character that is in a first-person view that I would assume is Ethan or whoever the player is controlling goes Chris, and Chris shoots somebody and says sorry. So apparently there is something going on with Chris. Now we've seen, like, mind control clones and shit in Resident Evil at this point, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of weird twist in that angle, because I couldn't just see Chris automatically becoming evil without being, like, blackmailed into it, or just being a clone or something like that. We've seen clones before, so it looks pretty good. Since VR was announced to be compatible with the PS5 prior to all this for quite a while, that's what I really want to know, and sadly, it did not say anything. Now, it looks like it could be in first person in a way, again, like 7, so there was fingers crossed for VR. Now, new game-wise, because like I said, while exciting for Demon Souls remake, I mean, Demon Souls is still one of my favorite Souls games, so that is exciting, but it's not, especially with the rumored price points people keep going into, and we'll get into that eventually, but that's the tougher part of that. Now, a game that actually was interesting, that has no relation to any IP or anything, Little Devil Inside. So this game has very simplistic looking graphics and that, but it looked really nice. I don't know, I feel like it's kind of like a really, really atmospheric adventure, I guess you could say. A lot of exploration, maybe even like a tad of kind of that feeling of exploring in Dark Souls in a way. Like, some of the areas looked really fun. Apparently there was a bit of a kerfuffle over one of the enemies that had, like, tribal masks, and people got triggered over that, and apparently they're going to change that, so it's sad that people are always attacking the devs over stuff. It looked like a nice little game, so that one looks interesting. Again, none of these titles to me buy a PS5 on launch, and I always advise against buying a console on launch because of usually technical issues. It's usually best to wait until after. And then, let's see, they showed off new NBA game. Pretty sure none of us care about that. Ooh, excuse me, hiccup. Octodad's Quado created a new game called Bug Sack, which sounds really close to something else, which I'm not sure what was what they were going for in the. Well, I mean, but I get the game is these food bugs are like food. They're literally like living food things, and you like eat them and shit. So you know, bug snack, but I don't know. It seems like an odd game. Silly. Octodad was a very silly indie game. I bought the limited edition of limited one. No, well, it didn't have like a big box thing, but I mean the limited one version for the PS4. It was an enjoyable little game, but it wasn't really long, so I would have. I would assume it be something like that. Now, in more the Western developed thing, this looked like an interesting game, Deathloop. So it looks like you're putting like a scenario where you have to figure out a way to get through a scenario, or if you die, you have to loop through it all over again. That, I think, looked like a pretty interesting game. So that one's a little on my radar. Let's see. There was a Capcom announcement that felt very weirdly Hideo Kojima-ish. It was just a movie, so can't really say much about that. It's just some people looking at Earth, and it's like a. Now the big thing, I think a lot like this probably should have been the thing they started with, honestly. But Horizon Forbidden West, which apparently also got heavily criticized because apparently people were triggered over the title sounding like colonization of all weird, bizarre things. But a lot of people loved Horizon Dawn, so I would imagine a lot of people will be excited, and that will probably be the big system seller. If that's a launch title, that will probably be the system seller in its early life, assuming it doesn't end up with the Last Guardian syndrome. As long as it doesn't get that. Outside of that, I think that covered most of the interesting footnotes of games that was shown. Nothing really, like, Demon Souls is really the only RPG-esque thing there, so that was a bit of a shame there. Now, they did, during this, show off what the console itself looks like, and showed off two models of it. You have the optical drive version, the disc drive, and then you have the non-optical version, doing something like the Xbox One SAD, the, what did it stand for? It's just a discless Xbox One. Now, when Microsoft announced the Xbox SAD, a lot of people were like, well, this might not necessarily be a terrible idea if the console is cheaper than the optical drive version, you know, you could see some appeal, but no. They made it the exact same price as the Xbox One S, if I remember quickly. It was the exact same price. Wasn't cheaper, even though it should have been a little cheaper because they were saving it on the optical drives. Now, currently there's a massive panic over the price point for the PS4, PS5. Sorry if I over the PS5's price point, because there's a lot of placeholder numbers that got leaked. PlayAsia recently put it listed for $699.99. Now, it is important to note that this is pretty common, that a lot of places put the price a bit high because they're even not aware of what the fucking price is. So I would tell people freaking out to just stay calm with that. It's not impossible for it to be this price. That's why a lot of people are concerned about it. I mean, after all, the PS3 did that, and as we saw, that didn't go very well for a very long time for that poor console. And it has never been good for any console. The PS3 is the only console that ever would bounce from it, and they did massive losses from it. So for the console's look, it looks fine, I guess. I mean, you know, they're just trying to give it an aesthetic to draw people to it. It's just another box that I did notice. It looks like that it does sit a little higher off where it sits, which I think might be a good idea, since the PS3 360 era of video games, these things have became giant fucking mini ovens, and people still don't learn to not put them in the little cubby spaces on entertainment stands. Like it's kind of amazing how entertainment stands still have all these little cubby holes, and they haven't really addressed for like video game consoles because a lot of people just cram them in there and they just deep fry themselves from all the heat and shit. That's what causes a lot of people's consoles to die very often. So I think that's a nice little change to try and get a little extra ventilation. But I'm sure just like we still more modern consoles, it likely still needs to be in a very open area. They haven't really showed any of the discs or anything. Not really a big deal. I mean, unless they torn in the squares or something, I don't think it's going to be in this like a huge major thing. Now, the controller aesthetically looks very different. And the bottom handles look just a wee bit longer now. Supposedly, there's going to be a new audio system with this game. With this system they talked about before this unveil before. And I think they said the control has some kind of some new touch wumble thing attached to it. I think I remember hearing also like a few months back. It's not really something I'm likely gonna care about. I'm not really I don't really worry about fucking wumbles and shit. Now, sadly, it looks like the controllers are still going to be very expensive. I remember in the old days when controllers used to be fucking like $30. Now that's like fucking 60 to 80 damn fucking dollars. It's like, ugh. I have to say, it's going to be a tough sale if this thing actually ends up being $600, $700 or more dollars. It's going to be still a tough sale even if it's $500. It's because I mean, what was the PS3's original price? It was $599, right? That was like the same price the Neo Geo and shit was, if I remember quickly. So it's a bit touchy. Now, I have been seeing this big movement of, oh, wow, people buy an iPhone every, like, 2-3 years for that. Well, that's those fucking people. I'm not those fucking people. I have, like, a fucking $75 phone, because why the fuck would I spend $1,000 on a fucking phone? Now, that's not to say that you can't spend $1,000 on the phone. That you can obviously do whatever with your money, but that's just those fucking people. That ain't me. That's a lot of fucking money, regardless of what the hell it's on. And I think if it's not under $599 somehow, I think it's going to be an incredibly tough fight. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if it costs more than what the PS4 did, but it's just a tough sale. It's a tough sale if they go that route, especially right now being a terrible time to even try and increase the price with the mass destruction of many towns on top of unemployment rates from the whole virus thing, and just economics is terrible right now. It is not a good time to be selling something that costs even more. I know, like, consumer spending has went up during this, ironically, but I just don't. I think that's more because of, lots of grocery shopping during the shortage time, and then when people got all the, when you give a bunch of people that are irresponsible $1,200 to, like, what was it, like $2,400 if you have kids and things, You know, and I would bet tons of people just immediately spent that and bought like video games and all kinds of electronics and shit. I put mine in my savings, and I'm not saying you're bad for spending it. I mean, it's money. I would have hoped people would have spent more on things like bills and, you know, things they need to get fixed and caught up. But I'm not here to judge anyone on that. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people went out there and just spent the money on a bunch of electronics. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense why the consumer spending is really high right now. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, especially after people have spent all that money, likely by now, having a $700, $800 console is going to be a good idea right now. Now, they didn't announce the price point or the release date. Now, it is still being heavily believed it will come out at the end of this year, likely for the holiday, likely in November, to try and be available for Christmas gifts and shit. That is very likely. But there's still no official release date and no price point. Now, I'm sure what's going on, and a lot of people have also agreed with this, is that Microsoft and Sony are in this waiting bid game of waiting for someone to announce their price likely to undercut them. Now, Sony just literally punched the living fuck out of Microsoft at the beginning of our current generation. Microsoft announced all kinds of stupid ideas and shit, and Sony just gut punched them over and over on a bunch of that shit. It was not good for them. And if I was Microsoft, I wouldn't blame them to try and do the same back to Sony, especially right now when they're having a lot of consumers who are worried, concerned, and mad about things they've been doing to the consumer base. A consumer base that's been with them since the PS1, mind you. But, let alone their own original home country. But my thoughts are, I think it probably has a good chance of costing more than what the PS4's launch price was, which, actually, what was the PS4's launch price? Let me see here, because I don't actually remember when it launched at, because I'm sure if I looked up now, it would probably be a bit lower. Let's see. It launched in America at $399, so it was $400. So I could see it possibly trying for like $450 and maybe even pushing to $500, but I think it would be suicide to go $600 and so much to $700. Like, if there's people buying iPhones every 2 years for $1,000, like, I don't know what the fuck's safe for those people, but I know what's safe for myself. That's too fucking much money. You would need like demigod-esque games to justify me to buy that, especially early in its life. It would likely be better just to wait later in its life, well, a more discounted, better build model that likely gives you several more games with it would probably be better. I see it as a tough sale. And then, of course, you got PC elitists who are just like, ha ha ha, you're better off buying a computer. Which, for that kind of money, if you're going to go with that kind of money, yeah, you might as well buy a fucking computer. That is way too much money for me. And I'm a guy who owns over fucking 3,000 physical video games and has pretty much almost every normal console you'll likely be able to think of without going to really obscure shit. Just to put that out there. That is just ridiculous amounts of money. I mean, fuck, just getting into PlayStation VR, you have to pay a whole extra fucking $100 to $200 depending on deals and used and new and shit. Like, could you imagine, like, needing to do Because I would imagine they'll likely make a updated VR headset for the PS5 likely, even though they said that it's going to be compatible with PS4's VR headset. They'll likely make a new one. Could you imagine if it was like fucking $700 and then you had to buy like a $200 headset to play the VR? That's fucking ridiculously insane, man. That's crazy. Too fucking crazy. Honestly, like, I really think they're just waiting for to drop each other's name and the not name prices, the prices. Because the Xbox, like Microsoft, needs a good success story right now. Because the Xbox One, from my point of view, like it got sales, it got its player base now, but they also abandoned a lot of their consumers for PC and shit, like. And then tried to do a digital all version of their console and shit. Like, it's just like throwing all kinds of shit, trying to hope for something to stick, man. And I still haven't got an Xbox One. It's one of the few consoles that I have not gotten, just because they're all games I want to play on it, but it just. Even at its current price of, like, I think you can get one around $2.99 now, and it launched at $4.99, because remember, it was an extra $100 than the PS4, and had that mandatory Connect shit you had to get. But I think at this point you can get like a Xbox One S for like $2.99, I believe, and it's just. It still doesn't. I don't feel like it's worth that price for the few games I even have any interest for on it. I'm just hoping it becomes cheaper eventually here, but honestly, it's not exactly shocking to not see a lot of RPGs. You don't usually see big name RPGs as early launch titles for consoles a lot of times, so. Demon's Souls is exciting, but I don't see it being enough unless it has. If it has new stuff, I could possibly be slightly interested in buying the console then. But it alone is not enough to make me want to buy the console, especially if it's going to be anywhere near $600 to $700. Honestly, so far, nothing to me feels like justification to buy a console for that price. To me, I would love to know what you all think. Like, do any of the titles they show look like system sellers to you? Because the only thing I think, and I know a lot of people like Horizon Dawn, so don't get me wrong on that one. That one I think is really the only current thing that is going to move this thing right now. And that's assuming it's a launch title, of course, because that's going to be a Sony exclusive title, so that's not going to be too shocking now. But it's just a tough sale to me. Honestly, they always take a hit when they make these consoles. Usually, like, that became really common as graphics increased for them to take a hit on the price tag, and what they do is they get a percentage of the game sales to recoup money lost from selling a console. Nintendo, I believe, was the last company that made profit off those systems until the Wii U. I think the Wii U and the 3DS were the first times they did not make profits off selling units. Prior to that, I believe all Nintendo systems were always sold on a profit. And now I don't think anyone at all does it. I think everyone does it at a loss and gets money additional from game sales. So obviously that's likely going to still be a thing with the PS5, but I don't know what to say if we get another console that costs $600. There's never been one that succeeded. The only reason the PS3 ever recovered was they cheapened the price down and removed things that were in it to cheapen it, and took so many hits to things. Like, the PS3 I think never earned Sony any money until like incredibly late into the system's life. It was a huge hit on their profits because the launch was so fucking horrible. And that's what the Xbox One did to itself. So right now Microsoft is on the defense wanting not that to happen again, while Sony's has its head up its ass right now thinking it can just screw around with its consumer base and that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I don't think we're gonna see the price tag anytime soon until somebody basically takes the draw of the cards and throws the price tag out. Assuming they come out for this holiday, that is. Now, if they don't come out until next year, then it's likely going to be a long wait until the end of next year. And that could be a possibility, because, like I said, it's a really weird time, especially if it's going to be really expensive to put a product like this out right now. It's going to be difficult for a lot of different families to justify spending even $400, $500 on a new console right now, with many families having money problems due to different things going on in the world. So I'd say the likelihood is they're either just going to wait until the very last moment they can of this year, or one of them might try, or both could try pushing it into next year. I think ultimately that thought will depend on basically whether our economy gets better as we get near holiday seasons. If it shows worse signs than that, it could be something both sides might even try to wait until next year. But next year, then, if they did that, it'll become a case of will they release it early next year or wait until the end of next year for the holiday. It'll be a very strange time. But honestly, I don't really see... I can foresee PS3 launch visions if this thing launches over $500. If they go $500, they might get away with it. But if they go $600 or even fucking $700, they'll be out of their mind. I won't understand how it could succeed. That's insane money to me. But let me know what your thoughts are on this. I would love to hear your opinions. And until next time, thank you for stopping by the Proving Ground.